Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Kevin Wright from Solve Advocacy is going to be here momentarily, where we're going to get into a lot of the UFO and drone talk coming on up. But first, we have to say hello to each and every one of you, including Race Fan in the gold medal position, Frankie B with a silver, Robert Lamoth with a bronze medal tonight. Hi, Tim Mothman and his goatee, two separate entities. Road Flare, Joanne, and the lovely and talented Kira. How you doing, beautiful? I hope you and Mark and your family are doing good, and many blessings and love to you. Just for that, Kira will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Scrolling on down, we got Dragonfly, Lee the Bee, JSCO, Brown Dwarf, Richard Minnick, and Lisa Smith. Levi Wood, how you doing? Mel WD40 is here, lubing us up for tonight's show, because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. You don't want any of that rigidness. It never feels good, especially when you're talking UFOs. So we lube up, and we go in gently. Joseph Richardson, Dragonfly, how you guys doing? Little Timmy James. How you doing, buddy? I got crossed up there, Tim. I did. Let's try that again. There we go. Rose Brooks, how are you? And Cosmic Joe, nice to see you. Mama Catherine, I was wondering if one of them drones took you, Mama Catherine. You hadn't been here in a couple nights. I was worried, not going to lie. I was worried. Kitty Cattywhack, how are you? Noble Patrick, how you doing? As we continue on with our roll call here tonight, Canna Chef Chris has returned. Canna Chef Chris will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Scrolling on down, we have Ginger Turtle. How are you? Karen in the Woo Train, Super Knower, Thomas Rock, Mike Bothwell, Ethanol. How y'all doing? Pam Harris, thanks for coming on in. Gong Show, how you doing, buddy? And who else do we have here? Millennium, my man. Lee the Bee. And who is next? W. David Page. Search and Destroy, how are you? Hi there, John Jackson. Panda on Fire, how you doing? Mennonite Abe loves his drones. Kim Stanley, how you doing? Nice to see you. Kimberly Burgess, thank you for coming on in. As we continue on with our roll call, Al Garay over on Twitch, very pumped up, did 582 push-ups in 10 minutes to warm up for Kevin Wright tonight. Alien Critter, good to see you. Phyllis Boucher Perry, looking lovely tonight. Guy Calgary, nice to have you back. Operation Shutdown. Skip to Malou and Latchkey. Thank you all for coming on in. Hi there, Chris. Teen, how are you? Matthew Goodka, good to have you here. And who else is here? Ozzy Ange, how are you? Number 21 in your program, starting at right wing tonight from Stockholm, Sweden. Lars Jansson. Fapperoni, how are you, my man? JMJ12, good to see you. AB, where's CDEFG? Rock and Rory, how are you? And who is next? Chill Farm in Brisbane. Nice to have you here. Alex Oyen, Under the Veil, how you doing? Thanks for coming on in. Kurt M. Beverly Hassel, welcome to SOR chat. Pissing me off, Evan Walters. Pissing me off. Here we go. Laura Elizabeth, how you doing, beautiful? We'll see you in Vegas. Yes, we will. For the Merle and Dave party. J Truth Seeker, good to have you here. CLO, nice to have you here as we continue on with our roll call. But first, we're going to get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Drones over New Jersey. Yes, the story unfolds and continues. Kevin Wright from Solve Advocacy is here with us tonight to discuss this situation. And we're in roll call right now on our YouTube side. We say hello to Mark Sanchez and his collection of Hawaiian shirts. Candy Wolf, how are you? Bobbert, Tina Smith, nice to have you here. Crystal O, welcome to SOR Chat. Adarius, it's been a while. Resonate, thanks for coming on in. MJ again, I already said you, so you don't get it twice. No offense. Kyle Rousseau, welcome to SOR Chat. And I think we're caught up. Evan D, how you doing, man? Remember, the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So check it on out. Hi, Phineas over on X. Joey Glow. Everybody throw those horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out the Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We have a power show of knowledge tonight from Solve Advocacy. Kevin Wright is here to break down UFOs and the big stories coming out of New Jersey. Then in hour number 3, we have Swamp Dweller. We will have Little Timmy James here for the UFO report. It's Dave 101 night. Guess what I'm talking about? Yep, drones. And we're going to have the weird news of the week. All right, let's get to it. It is the story that won't go away. It's the itch we cannot scratch. It's the drone situation happening right now in the lovely state of New Jersey. Kevin Wright has 25 years of experience in Washington, D.C. in public relations, communications, and issue advocacy. He founded Solve Advocacy, an issue advocacy and communications consulting firm dedicated to UAP and edge science issues. He advises the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies Board of Directors on public affairs and public relations. He is also a consultant to Danny Sheehan's New Paradigm Institute and is a weekly columnist for the Roswell Daily Record. We're going to get right into this right now. We're not even going to, do the hi, how you doing? No, I'm teasing on that. Kevin, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, my friend. I know you've been up for 18 hours. You got to stay up at least another 2 for us. And we're glad that you were here. How you doing, my friend?
Good, and thank you for having me back on.
It's always a pleasure to have you here. And, you do a lot of work behind the scenes. You're not really used to being on this side of the microphone, getting hammered by questions from morons like me. But the big thing is, what do you think's going on here, man? I mean, we have the hearings, we have an election, all of a sudden the drones show up. What the hell is going on?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's a little difficult to discern exactly what is happening, but you raised some interesting points. We had 2 hearings, we had an election. Is any of this, factoring into those hearings in the election? It's possible that, there's something going on. The election had enormous ramifications for a number of issues, and as it relates to UAP, UFOs, it's a distinct possibility that President-elect Donald Trump has expressed a desire to be more open and transparent and disclose at least some information related to UFOs. He's certainly stalking his cabinet and various agencies and departments with people who have some working knowledge at the very least about the subject and have committed to more transparency with the American people. So, does that play a role in something that's going on here today with all of these alleged drones, not only over New Jersey, New York City, and Pennsylvania, but also, recently over the Thanksgiving holiday in the United Kingdom over RAF and U.S. Military bases in the United Kingdom? So there's a whole lot of strange stuff going on here.
At what point do we decide what is a UFO, what is a UAP, what is a drone?
Well, that's a great question too. And, if you think about what the government is saying, what the Department of Defense is saying, and other agencies and departments, what they're telling you is that they don't think that it's a foreign adversary. They say that it's not ours. So they're also saying that, but they also don't know what it is. And if you listen to National Security Council advisor in the White House, John Kirby, today, in the press briefing he did, he said that there's no visual corroboration for the sightings in New Jersey, which is just, ridiculous, right? Because at the same time, they're saying that they already know that it's not foreign, it's not ours, but at the same time, they don't know what it is. So they're essentially tying themselves in knots, trying to explain away what's happening, while at the same time exposing themselves for either not knowing anything or for telling bald-faced lies to the American public.
Well, and that's the big thing. I am very much surprised that all of these official alphabet groups or politicians are claiming that they know nothing about this, man. I just don't buy that. It doesn't make sense.
Well, I think that there's probably a lot of politicians that have no idea because they're dependent upon, sort of the same sources or dependent upon some of the same people that we should be able to depend on to provide us information. And they get to run around just like we do. Historically speaking, when it comes to the UFO, UAP topic, we know that the gatekeepers think of elected officials, even presidents of the United States, as temporary employees who they don't need to bother themselves with. So when, a Moskowitz or a Burchett or a Luna or a Mace or somebody else comes knocking on the door asking questions, they don't care.
Should they care, though?
Well, they should, of course. I mean, this gets to the heart of some of the conversations we've been having, which is that if these programs exist, if non-human intelligence, NHI, is real, if UFOs exist and they're real, and we've had crash, retrievals and crash and reverse engineering programs and these sorts of things, and it's all being done without any sort of congressional oversight, and there's been a disinformation campaign waged against not just the American public but also against Congress, then we have a constitutional crisis. So then, therefore, the congressional representatives, the elected officials in the House and the Senate should care, and those people that are the gatekeepers should care if they're worried about possible, imprisonment or exposure of, their misdeeds at some point in time. But, heretofore today, they have not been held accountable. So they do have 80 years of experience in keeping this all secret and engaging in disinformation and committing crimes. And so they should feel, I guess, in some respects, safe and confident in what they're doing.
I find it very interesting that we see all these helicopters up in the sky. We see all of these planes up in the sky. And yet people are equating that with UFOs, with drones, claiming the aliens are shape-shifting their craft in order to look like ours for so they're not going to be as detected as they normally would. Have we, as a UFO public right now, blown this out of proportion?
No, but I think there's probably, sort of a confluence of lots of different things happening here where, there are these so-called drones, UFOs, or whatever they are that are up. We're probably putting drones up to try to monitor them, investigate, figure out what they are. Law enforcement in New Jersey and townships and sheriff offices, putting helicopters up. So there's probably a lot of different things in the sky right now. So there probably is some confusion exactly what we're witnessing. But there are some highly anomalous craft that are operating in the sky as we speak. So are we conflating various things? I think it's more likely that the government is conflating various things in order to disguise what's actually happening here. And that way it's easier for them to dismiss anything as a threat or anything as a UFO or a UAP, that it's all prosaic, that it's all this catch-all of drones. That's what I think.
What do you believe this is? Do you believe it's ours? Do you believe it's something else?
I am not able to make a definitive judgment on this because, we simply don't have enough information. We have a lot of eyewitness accounts that are describing some, very anomalous activity in terms of, the ability for these craft to stay, in operation, from dusk till dawn. That's highly unusual, and it's certainly not a hobby drone or something. We have a lot of different reports about, the woman, I forget what her name is. She's an assemblywoman out of the state of New Jersey who had a briefing from the headquarters of the New Jersey State Police headquarters, where they had various officials there doing a briefing and, talking about how, some of these craft are able to evade radar, infrared, jam radio signals and things. So these are not typical drones, obviously. They're, military government craft, or they are, legitimate UFOs.
I am hesitant to say that they are UFOs right now. Just everything that I've seen, and trust me, I am no expert whatsoever, but I just see too many coincidental things happening here that we will get into in the next half hour about what is going on. But it just doesn't feel like this is something that we should be worried about. And when it's not a threat, like many of the agencies have come out after promoting the UFO / UAP threat narrative for the last number of years, now saying that they highly believe this is not a threat going on. That tells me that this is man-made, that this, are there UFOs mixed in? Sure, there could be. But overall status, I don't think that there's any threat going on. And I actually tend to believe what the government is saying for once on this.
Well, it's entirely possible that it's not a threat. I'm not saying that it is. I've never said that any of these things are a threat.
Oh, I know you didn't. I'm just making a comment.
Well, no. So I totally agree with you that it's entirely possible that none of this is a threat. But we have 80 years of obfuscation and lies and deceit, deception, and misinformation and disinformation. There's absolutely zero reason to believe anything that's coming outside of the White House or the Department of Defense or the Department of Homeland Security or the Federal Bureau of Investigation on this right now, because absolutely nothing that they're saying right now makes any sense.
Well, I can trust you on this. If anybody wants it to be UFOs, it's me.
Yeah. And I'm not saying it's UFOs either. I'm saying it's a distinct possibility, but I don't buy that it's, one of the Congress members said yesterday that he had received information that it was Iranian drones and there was, an Iranian mothership somewhere out there. I don't know if they were referring to a ship that was anchored in the ocean or something in the sky. I have no idea, but it doesn't make any sense because, the Iranians were not able to essentially penetrate the Israeli Iron Dome with the assistance of U.S. assets in two strikes that they conducted against Israel. If they had assets that could, infiltrate without knowledge of where they're coming from or where they're going and what they're doing, they would have used that against Israel by now. It's not Russian because they're now in past 1,000 days of war in Ukraine, and they're essentially bogged down. There's, skirmishes that go back and forth, and one side makes an advance and the other side repels it, and then they move forward. They would have used something that was an unconventional asset that would be a game changer on the ground in the Ukraine right now. If it was China, why would you expose yourself over, the state of New Jersey when you have potentially a technological surprise of some sort that would be an advantage to you if and when they decide to invade Taiwan? I mean, none of those explanations actually make real sense. Why would you use lights on these so-called drones if you're, on the one hand, trying to demonstrate that you're capable of doing something, but on the other hand, trying to mask yourself and hide who it is that you're representing as a country? So one of the other plausible scenarios here is that it's a non-nation state hostile actor, right? So that also brings into a number of questions about what could that possibly mean. People talk about breakaway civilizations and various things, and this gets down into some serious rabbit holes, right? But what if, there are oligarchs and billionaires and things that have been able to get their hands on advanced technology and are deciding that they're going to, make a power play? I don't know, but there's a number of things that could be going on here.
There are a number of things going on. And, it seems like we always want to blame China, blame Russia, blame Iran, blame Syria or North Korea or any other of these adversaries the second that something comes up. From your sources that you've talked to, is there any proof that it is any one of them? Can we rule that out?
That it's any one of these scenarios, that it's Iran or Russia or China or one of these things? Well, I don't have any sort of intelligence that tells me that we can rule any one of them out. I'm just saying that, sort of using common sense and logic and some of the evidence that we have presented to us, it's already in the public domain, that neither one of those three countries, or you could also throw North Korea in there, I suppose, but none of them actually make any sense.
Why do you think people are so worked up that it could be an adversary? Because if I'm an adversary, let's say, I'm here in Canada, if we decided, to drop a bunch of hockey pucks and sticks over New Jersey, because Lord knows their team is way too European right now in order to be competitive in the NHL. Yes, I went there. I'm not putting lights on my drone.
Right.
I'm putting infrared on there so my pilot can see where they're going. And if I'm going over a military installation, Trump's golf course, the shopping mall, the water slides, the airport, wherever it may be, I'm not lighting up the sky trying to grab attention here.
Right.
Do you see that as a concern like I do?
Well, of course. I mean, that's what adds to the mystery of saying that none of this adds up as the government is sort of portraying this as, right? Because none of it makes any sense. But that's sort of a hallmark of the phenomena, that none of it makes sense. It's the absurdity of it all. It's the trickster component of it that, Dr. Jacques Vallée has written about, extensively, or that John Keel wrote about, numerous times, and, through his several books that he's written. There's an oddity and an absurdity and a strangeness to the phenomenon. And I'm not saying that's what's going on here, but I'm saying that's something that we need to take into account. It's sort of the historical record of all the things that have transpired that correlate to what's going on here in New Jersey, New York City, the UK. And let's not forget, and we'll get to this now, I guess, which is that, in December of 2023, we had a similar incident that was happening in the UK, and probably correlates to what's going on in New Jersey, which we had in Langley Air Force Base here in Virginia. We had, 17 days or something like that of so-called drone incursions over the Air Force Base. It was so pervasive and disruptive that we had to move an entire fighter wing of jets out of the base and relocate them. We brought in new assets from NASA and other organizations to monitor the area. I mean, that's ridiculous. You go back to 2019, 2020, we had similar drone, incursions over Colorado, Wyoming, and Nebraska that were very similar to what we're seeing now. And if you go back decades to the 1950s and 1960s, and let's give credit to opinion columnist Merrick von Ronnenkamp, he's done a lot of digging into historical record and FOIA records and things where we're seeing that there was similar incidences of these objects over nuclear atomic warfare assets, nuclear missile silos and things going back to the 1950s and 60s. Now, of course, drones weren't part of the American lexicon. They weren't even invented and in use by the military at that point in time. That wasn't until the early 2000s. So you go back decades and we see that similar incidences were happening. How do you explain that? How do you explain that as Russian or China or Iranian or North Korean? China hadn't detonated their first nuclear weapon until I think it was like the early 1960s, right? And they hadn't launched an ICBM. They were technologically decades behind us because they had gone through the Cultural Revolution and essentially slaughtered their scientists and their doctors and their teachers and killed everybody that had any sort of knowledge. In the Soviet Union, they were a peer competitor with us, but they were still sort of behind us until they were able to launch the Sputnik satellite, right? In the late 1950s, 1957 or something. So how do we explain how there were these highly anomalous incidences that are very reminiscent and correlates to what's happening today that was going on in the 1950s and 1960s, and just dismiss that and forget about that history? You care about patterns and things that have transpired over the course of time to try to inform what's going on today. We have to take those things into account.
Kevin Wright is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We got 2 minutes before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Are you concerned? Do you feel there is any concern for safety, for the public, for just the idea in general that there is something strange going on that nobody seems to have answers for?
I have two concerns, but they're probably not what most people would think of. The first one is that this is a distraction to get Congress to believe that all the UAP stuff that they've been investigating that they're interested in is nothing more than drones, and distract them and get them off the trail of their mission. And the other is to convince people that that there is a national security threat from UFOs or something, and translate that into a militaristic sort of component where we continue to build out the military industrial complex to confront ET or something under a false premise.
That is the wonder that I have as well, because, one of the things that, and I'm not a big Dr. Stephen Greer fan by any means, but one of the things that he had promoted over the last couple of years was the fact that there could be a UFO false flag situation coming up. And could we be on the precipice of that with this? We got 30 seconds.
Well, I can't answer that. I'm just saying that that's something that we have to consider and leave on the table, that we cannot just take that off and dismiss it out of hand, because, there's obviously something very strange going on here, and the government doesn't want to talk about it, and they're dismissing it out of hand and telling you that there's absolutely nothing to worry about. It's not foreign. It's not us. There's nothing to worry about. But at the same time, they say they don't know what's going on. Those two things do not add up.
On that note, Kevin, I'm going to get you to hold on right there on Spaced Out Radio as we head to our first break of the night. Kevin Wright from Solve Advocacy. The drones in New Jersey, the hell are they? We're trying to figure it out along with you who are tuning on in. We'll be right back. Right after this, everybody stay tuned. All right, we are clear. We have a bunch of new people who may be listening to us for the first time tonight. If so, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. I am trying to say hello to everybody in the chat room. 402 watching live right now. We got 610 total. Yeah, we're almost at a new record here. Almost at a new record, which is kind of cool. Anyways, just want to remind you that we are a live radio show, which means we have to take our commercial breaks to time out with our radio stations. However, you get to see behind the scenes of the chat that goes on and the boring stuff that we talk about, like, everything from hockey to UFOs to, what kind of toothpaste do you use? We do it all around here. That's what we do. So if you don't mind, hit subscribe, ring that bell. Once again, I am trying to say hello to everyone in the chat room. I'm so far caught up, well, as close as I can be. Let's say hello to Marilyn Matos. Welcome to SOR Chat. And who else has joined us? Let's see. Scrolling on up. I honestly think I'm really caught up. I'm actually surprised. Paul Demon, Matthew Goodka. Good to see you guys. The Cryptid Huntress looking stunning and stellar tonight. How are you, Jessica? Sloanamite, how you doing? Looking good, everybody. Looking good. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up as well. We'd really appreciate it. 1971 Marmaduke. How you doing? Kev, you're hanging in there pretty good at least.
Yeah, man. I'm good.
Yeah. James Dixon, welcome to SOR Chat from Scotland. No drones. Anthony, fellow Canadian. Yeah. Travis William Moostus, Blues Cruise. How you guys doing? Kriya Divine, welcome to SOR Chat. Since when do they tell you the truth, Dave Scott? Why believe them now? Who am I believing? Oh, the government? I'm trying to use logic is what I'm trying to use, and it just makes sense. I don't mean that as an insult. Please don't take it that way. Lil Cam over on YouTube. Oh, you're on YouTube tonight, buddy. Good. Jennifer Beveridge, I am enjoying the winter. I wish it was. I hope it snows like anything this weekend, to be blunt. I do. This is the second winter in a row we're getting ripped off of snow. Between the snow and the new gun bans around here, we're just getting ripped off this Christmas. Did you hear about that, Kev?
I did not. Where do you live?
In British Columbia.
Okay. So
our dear leader. Pardon me?
Yeah, you have some sort of new sort of gun ban? You already had one, right?
Yeah, we had one in 2020 where they banned like 1,500 different types of pointy sticks.
Right.
And they just did another 324. Basically, if they look like assault pointy sticks, then they get banned.
Right.
Yeah. Bad Wolf, how you doing? Yeah, I have a pair of 22s now that I can no longer use.
They banned 22s?
Yeah. Well, at least mine they did.
Wow.
Yeah. Because, they're so accurate.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I assume you could probably still carry a BB gun with you, right?
Depends if it looks like an assault weapon or not.
Yeah.
So if it looks anything like an AR-15, it's done. Toast. Goodbye.
Yeah.
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 Katie Page, how are you, beautiful? Good to see you. And thank you tonight to all of our people who have hit subscribe. Don't forget, the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And shop at our Spaced Out Radio store on our website. We don't have ugly swag. Here we go. Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by going to YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We have Kevin Wright here from Solve Advocacy. Drones over New Jersey. Are they ours? Are they theirs? Are they aliens? Are they just some sort of AI? Kevin, thank you so much for being here with us. We really appreciate it.
Be here, and thank you for having me again.
The FBI came out tonight, or earlier today, I should say, and along with Department of Homeland Security, they actually put out a memo. I'm going to read this, and I want to get your reaction. We have no evidence at this time that the reported drone sightings pose a national security or public safety threat or have a foreign nexus. The FBI, DHS, and our federal partners, in close coordination with the New Jersey State Police, continue to deploy personnel and technology to investigate this situation and confirm whether the reported drone flights are actually drones or are instead manned aircraft or otherwise inaccurate sightings. Historically, we have experienced cases of mistaken identity where reported drones are, in fact, manned aircraft or facilities. We are supporting local law enforcement in New Jersey with numerous detection methods, but have not corroborated any of the reported visual sightings with electronic detection. To the contrary, upon review of available imagery, it appears that many of the reported sightings are actually manned craft operating lawfully. There are no reported or confirmed drone sightings in any restricted airspace. We take seriously the threat that can be posed by unmanned aircraft systems, UAS, which is why law enforcement and other agencies continue to support New Jersey and investigate these reports. To be clear, they have uncovered no such malicious activity or intent at this stage. While there is no known malicious activity occurring in New Jersey, the reported sightings there do, however, highlight the insufficiency of current authorities. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, it's a lot to unpack, but I mean, as we discussed in the first half hour segment here, there's something very strange and anomalous going on here, and I'm not talking about the craft themselves, but I'm talking about what the government is telling and communicating to the American public, which is not adding up to what the reports are on the ground, and that includes the New Jersey State Police, Coast Guard, elected officials, and the briefings that they've received. There was a New Jersey Assemblywoman who put out a very long post on X detailing the briefing that she was part of, and essentially saying that that they were tracking these objects, but they were not able to necessarily always pick them up on radar or infrared, but they had visual contact on them. So on the one hand, when they say that they do not have the electronic signatures of something, on the one hand, that's probably true, because if they're not able to pick them up on infrared or radar, or pick them up on radio communications, that's being sort of honest. But it's also at the same time, doing a sleight of hand trick here, a 3-card Monte, because we also know that they have seen these things themselves. They have these assets up there, and they've seen these objects. We have video of objects, some of which are clearly helicopters or planes and misidentification, but there are also objects that are up there that have not been explained, and they know that they're there. So how can they, on the one hand, say that there isn't a foreign threat, or a foreign actor that's responsible for these so-called drones, and that they're not our drones, but we also know that there's no threat, because they've identified the fact that they are not foreign and they're not ours. So whose are they? But they have acknowledged that they're there. So what's going on?
Because of the way that the FBI worded this, many skeptics of anything they say will immediately target the fact that, of course, they're going to say this. Of course, there's no threat. There is no, nothing. These are airplanes. These are helicopters. These are images of my former mother-in-law driving her broom across the sky, whatever it may be. We expect the FBI and Department of Homeland Security to say that. Those who want it to believe or want it to be UFOs are the ones who are really, charged up, saying, if it was anything else, you would tell us. Adversaries aren't going to put lights on, so on and so forth. So I guess my question is, can we believe that statement as being somewhat truthful, fully truthful, or should we just use it as toilet paper?
What I'd say is it's using kernels of truth to obscure what's really going on. I don't know exactly what's really going on, but when they say that they don't have, precise visual evidence or technical readouts or something, radar signatures or infrared signatures or something like that, that's probably true in some extent with some of these objects, because that is, highly indicative of either an advanced technology or UFO or something. Whereas, if it's just a commercial drone, if it were a normal airplane or a normal helicopter, nobody's going to be thinking that New Jersey has, 30 to 50 drones in the air over a city at a given time. If it's, why would there be 50 helicopters? We also have the account of, the briefing that occurred that there were, 30 to 50 of these objects that were trailing a Coast Guard vessel, in the Atlantic heading towards New Jersey. What was that? That's not 30 or 50 airplanes that are lining up to land at the New Jersey airport. That's not 30 or 50 helicopters that are, just loitering around. That's something that's clearly not normal. So what the question is, of course, what are they? We can't say definitively what they are. And I'm not saying that they're UFOs, and I'm not saying that they're drones. I'm not saying that they're foreign adversaries or anything else. But what I am saying is that the government is not being honest with us about what is actually going on.
I guess I look at it that as much as I believe that a lot of these are misinformation on helicopters, on airplanes, on larger military style drones, like I'm not saying as big as the Reaper or the Raptor or anything like that, but something a little bit larger than life. Correct me if I'm wrong, because literally I live in the middle of nowhere, British Columbia, Canada. Okay, like right in the center of the province where the sun is setting at 4:00 in the afternoon right now. Doesn't businesses like Amazon, are they doing drone deliveries at this time down there? Or have they not started that? Are they still testing that out?
To be perfectly honest, I have no idea. I mean, I haven't seen one. We get Amazon deliveries all the time. We have 3 children, and we're constantly ordering clothes and shoes and, pens and pencils and all kinds of things for them. So I have not seen one myself. So I can't say one way or another whether or not that's true. But if these reports are accurate, that some at least of these drones or whatever they are the size of cars or SUVs, that's not what Amazon's using. They're using smaller drones that deliver a package here and there. They're not loading up a car and putting a propeller on it and then dropping it off on people's rooftops like Santa Claus. That's just preposterous. That's not what's happening. It's not Amazon.
Okay. Well, one of the other things that got me about this statement before we move on here is the fact that they're very adamant that this isn't anything to do with public safety threat. There is no worry about national security or public safety, according to the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security, as well as all the other groups. If that's the case, is that trying to calm people down or sweep it under the rug? Because the one thing that we have heard from Lou Elizondo, David Grush, Chris Millen, Tom DeLong, many others about this UFO subject, that it's all a threat narrative. And here we are with something that could be threatening, and now they seem to be downplaying it.
Well, I think that, look, they're certainly saying that it doesn't pose a threat. And I don't personally think that they do either. But I think it's more likely that they're trying to just sweep this all under the rug. I mean, because nothing of what they're saying is coming out of their mouths about, what they're observing, what they're saying. They don't know to or from where they're going. They don't know what they are, but it's not a threat. I mean, how does any of that add up? Like, how do you know that if you don't know who's operating them, where they're coming from, or where they're going? They simply cannot square that circle. And then to say that it's not a threat, don't worry about it, go about your lives, is also a form of sweeping this under the rug, of saying that there's nothing to this. They're just drones and we have everything under control.
Yeah, we don't.
We don't. That's right. We don't. We clearly do not have control of our own airspace, because this has happened at Langley Air Force Base. It's happening in New Jersey, New York City, Philadelphia area. It happened several weeks ago for a period of weeks in the United Kingdom over U.S. and RAF air bases. And as we discussed in the first half hour, it's happened previously in other parts of the United States, in Colorado, Wyoming, and Nebraska, where we have military installations and nuclear assets. And we have had these instances that have happened before in the 1950s and 1960s. Now, of course, we didn't have drones then, and we didn't even use that as a terminology at the time, but similar instances were happening then. So they weren't mistaken airplanes. They weren't mistaken helicopters. They weren't, it wasn't Amazon. It wasn't, a pizza delivery. These are some of which are reported to be the size of a car. There's something going on here, and the government is not being honest about it.
So you're believing then there's a real lack of trust and good faith in trying to figure out what this is. And I don't want to be putting words in your mouth, but am I assuming correctly or not?
Yeah, I think you're assuming correctly that what I'm saying is that the Department of Defense and the White House, between them and also the Department of Homeland Security and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, is not being entirely honest with us about what it is that's happening here. And they haven't been for some time.
Well, let's look at this from a different perspective, because on X today at exactly 9:00 this morning, Lockheed Martin sent out a tweet with a picture of a drone.
Yeah.
And it said, Indigo 4 uncrewed aerial system. This tactical quadcopter provides 360-degree surveillance, is whisper quiet with high-resolution camera systems to accurately identify people, objects, vehicles, and weapons, and then provides a link to Indigo 4 coming on down. Now, the one thing that I didn't see on this is the size of it. It does have an endurance of 50 to 70 minutes of range. It can move from the aircraft data link range 10 kilometers. It has a max payload of 5 pounds, which I guess is pretty good for a drone at this size. But they didn't say what size it was. And
Right.
that is really what is interesting. See, to me, my belief on this whole thing is that if we look at the patterns, we have the 2 hearings, one the congressional hearing and then the Arrow hearing, back-to-back weeks. Then we have the election. Then the drones show up. And then people get all hyped about it. And now we see a tweet like this. To me, and to a couple of my insiders who I was texting with earlier, this is what the black projects do. This is how they make fun of what they are doing by putting out strange tweets. Like, there's no sense while this is going on for Lockheed Martin to be putting this out. You're a PR guy. You know how games are played.
Yeah. So I totally picked up on that as well. Countless times that I saw that same Lockheed Martin post on X today, and it's highly strange. What I would just to go back to what your description was of their drone that they're promoting here is that they have a essentially a battery lifespan of 70 minutes or something like that. Well, that doesn't explain how these things that are being observed over the land in New Jersey can stay aloft for 7 hours. It's clearly not that, but it is highly strange that they would be advertising, this sort of drone, which to me speaks more to a campaign of disinformation, of muddying the waters, of saying, oh, Lockheed Martin has this drone. Look, it's right here. That's what it must be, or something similar to it. It's sort of muddying the waters, which is a hallmark of a disinformation campaign. I'll go you one better. Is why does Lockheed Martin advertise such a drone and put out these posts? It's not like you or I or anybody else can just go to the website and say, that's really cool, man, I'm going to order myself one. Because you can't. You can't order one. So why advertise it?
Yeah, you don't often get...
Well, I'll tell you that the media publications that you go to Washington Post or the New York Times or Politico or others, where they're receiving this revenue from Lockheed Martin and Boeing and all these other aerospace defense contractors and lots of other special interests, they're getting all this revenue from these organizations and these companies. And so when it comes time to write a story about Lockheed Martin potentially having a reverse engineering program, do you think that the money that they're pumping into these organizations and these media conglomerates have any influence on what it is that they're going to report on? Because that's what they're dependent upon, because they're not actually selling subscriptions to newspapers and online subscriptions. Nobody's buying these things. They're dependent 100% on the ad revenue. So why is it that Boeing and Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman are spending millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars every single year between them on top of each other? Why are they spending all that money? Advertising. Who's the audience? There isn't an audience. The government and the lobbyists and everything else take care of those sorts of things. Why are they spending that money?
Well, and that's a good point. I mean, you don't see Bombardier or Gulfstream advertising their jets, private jets, because they know they don't have to, because there's an eclectic amount of people who can afford that. Jacobs and Co. watches. You don't see them advertising in the local newspaper that, buy 2, get 1 free. You don't see that for wearing a timepiece that costs $2 to $3 million plus dollars. It's a different echelon. So
And
what
well,
you're saying,
it's not even just that. It's not just that Gulfstream or some private jet company isn't going to advertise in the Washington Post or something because their audience cannot afford to buy a jet, but it's also the fact that Lockheed Martin and these things are not making products that American citizens and consumers can buy. You can't even buy the stuff. What are they advertising? They're buying influence and essentially, buying off news publications so that you do not report negative stories about them. That's what's going on with that.
so if I get this correctly in my brain, this whole thing with Lockheed Martin on the drones today on their Twitter, are you saying that was kind of a shot at the public and what's happening with these drones right now?
What I'm saying is it's likely a coordinated campaign to confuse and muddy the waters about what's actually occurring. That, okay, here's a plausible explanation for what's going on. There's these advanced technology drones, and this could be an explanation. But it's not an explanation because who would have access to a drone like that? The United States government would have access to a drone like that, not you or me. Not even, a township in New Jersey. They're not going to buy a drone like that. They have no use for a drone like that. It's the United States government and its departments and agencies that would have access to a drone like that. So why advertise it and why be putting that out on X today of all days? It doesn't make any sense.
So could these drones then, what we're seeing in the sky right now, could they be a defense test on new radar systems? Because drone warfare, thanks to Russia, Ukraine, is literally the way warfare is going to go from now on?
Well, it's certainly possible. I mean, look, that's certainly a scenario that has to remain on the table, that these are, in fact, U.S. assets that are being deployed on U.S. soil in a test case scenario for whatever reason, whether that's to test anti-drone technologies or to detect whether or not these drones are detectable on radar or infrared, and what civilian assets are able to actually determine about their location, their speed, their altitude, where they're coming from, where they're going. Certainly plausible. However, it's highly dangerous to do this sort of blue on blue exercise where you're putting, U.S. Assets and potentially personnel at adversarial potential against other U.S. assets and personnel, where you're risking the possibility of an American citizen or American military personnel being killed as a result of something very high risk. You could easily test these sort of technologies, if that's what's going on, out in the desert where nobody's paying attention, which is what they have historically done with all of the other high-tech technologies that they have tested over the past many decades. That's where they did this stuff. They did it out of the public view to make sure that what they were doing was not public, and that they were successful in their mission, making sure that the stealth technology worked. They couldn't be picked up on radar. Of course, at some point they were flying it over civilian populations and things, making sure that FAA wasn't picking it up and whatnot. But it's highly improbable to me that there's something going on there where we're simply testing something, unless we want that to be known.
Well, the big thing is, do we want it known? Do they want to know? Not us. We want to know. We
Right.
want to know. But do they? That just smells like nefarious hogwash right there, but on their part, not what we're discussing.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you. I mean, that's the problem that we're in here, that we have, a lot of different scenarios that are on the table, and we're not able to actually take any one of them off because of the fact that the government is not being honest and transparent with us in any way, shape, or form.
On that note, we're going to get you to hold on right there. Hard to believe we're already through 1 hour here on Spaced Out Radio. Kevin Wright is here from Solve Advocacy. And when we return from the break, we're going to take some audience questions from our YouTube channel and social media for Kevin. See what you guys think, what you guys want to know. Do me a favor, if you're in our YouTube chat or everywhere else, put your questions in capital letters. I will get them to Kevin, and we'll fit in as many questions as we can about the New Jersey drones when we come back from this break. We'll be right back.
This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
All right. What we're going to do here, Kev, is take about we got about 6 minutes until we come back on air. I'm going to just put you in the green room, and I'll be right back, okay?
Cool, man. See you in 6 minutes.
Be right back. Be right back, everybody. All right, I am back, and bring Kevin back here. We got about 2 minutes here before we're going to go. High double day. So for people just tuning in, Just want to let you know that we are a live radio show as well as a live YouTube channel and podcast. We have to time everything out to our radio stations, which is why we take our breaks. And you guys get to see behind the scenes on everything. Hi, Lunico. How you doing? JW3, welcome to SOR Chat. Gaspiracy, nice to see you. President Zaddy, FU, my friend. All right. Let's see who else we got here. Let's see who else. Scrolling on down, trying to catch up. And
hey, Dave, there was somebody on your chat there that gave a shout out to my chair that I'm sitting in. So
yes,
shout out and say thank you.
yes.
Not sure who that was, but somebody had commented on that. So
that was Search and Destroy.
Search and Destroy. Yeah. Thank you, Search and Destroy.
All right. You do not have to put double up your questions. I will get to them. Sherry Diane Hernandez, welcome to SOR Chat. And we're caught up. Please remember to put your capital letters in, or pardon me, your questions in capital letters. And Peter Benton, how you doing? Thank you to Search and Destroy for our lone super chat tonight. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And if you're looking for really cool swag, go to our Spaced Out Radio store on our website. You can get your t-shirt that says, Friends Don't Let Friends UAP right now. Here we go. Here comes hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for joining us as we talk about the New Jersey drones with Kevin Wright from Solve Advocacy. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Habromania. Habromania is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our good friend Kevin Wright, Solve Advocacy. He is a media and public relations expert. He works in the field of UFOs. He does PR for the Scientific Coalition of UAP Studies, the SCU. Kevin, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me, man. Good to be here.
A lot of people haven't had a chance to ask their questions about these drones. So here in hour 2, I want to get a bunch of those questions in from our audience, just so they can get that in. And we're going to start off with Anthony here. We got a bunch of questions today from Anthony. What's the purpose for running such an operation without early warning so as not to create the chaos and social distress among the public locally? Because this is everywhere.
So if I'm understanding that, what's the purpose of running such an operation? I think that's probably from the perspective of if this is an operation that's being actually run by our government, probably. Yes. So, well, that's a very good question. Why would, some department or agency of our government run such an operation? I think, there could be any number of answers to that, but as Dave highlighted earlier in previous segments, we've had a series of different things that have happened over the course of the last month and a half. We had 2 hearings, one in the House with the House Oversight with 2 subcommittees that featured, Lou Elizondo, former Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, Michael Schellenberger, and Mark Gold. And then we had the hearing, if we can call it that, in the Senate with Kirsten Gillibrand and Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa with the new director of Aero, Mark Kozlowski. And then, of course, we had also before that, we had the election in which, Donald Trump won, a new term as president. So there's a whole lot of things that are going on there. So if this is an actual government operation, the question more becomes, is this in response to those hearings? Is it a response to, Donald Trump being elected to a new term? That's probably the real question, because, if you want to sort of throw off Congress from the scent of the trail, you might want to establish something going on that's becomes very prosaic, that's clearly just drones. They can expose it as that, and then tell Congress, see, all this UFO, UAP talk is nothing more than drones. Could there be something similar going on there like that with, a new impending Donald Trump presidency where, he has expressed interest in, releasing at least some UFO records, and he's stocked his cabinet, or has proposed to stock his cabinet with a number of officials who have clear knowledge of, UAP, UFO issues, including Marco Rubio for Secretary of State, John Ratcliffe, and others who have openly talked about this issue and the desire for more transparency on behalf of the government for the American people. So is this something that's going on that's related to that in order to deter, Congress from continuing an investigation, or deter, this impending Trump administration from doing something? That is something that I think we should, take into serious consideration.
All right, let's move on to another question here. Follow up from Anthony as well. Are we being tested for an arrival event, the ontological shock?
I think that's a really good question. What I would say is I'm more skeptical about what the government's doing. So what I would say is that, is it more likely that there could be something going on here that the government, I'll say the government because that's a really large word and it's all encompassing, but it's easy to say, but the executive branch, the legacy programs, the Department of Defense, the intelligence community, the military industrial complex, is this something that they have created to show that, that there is this sort of mass hysteria that's going on of people looking up in the sky and seeing drones when they're actually seeing airplanes or something, and saying, see, the American people aren't really ready to handle this yet. We told you so. Back off from this investigation. I think something like that is more likely if something's actually being conducted by the United States government in some form or fashion. I think that's something that's more plausible.
Getting back to the fact that you mentioned President Trump earlier, President-elect Trump, I guess is the proper terminology on that. One of the places where these drones have been sighted is over his golf course. That's not a very sensitive area, but do you think it's just coincidental with the name of the course?
I have no way of knowing, but it is, of course, peculiar that has happened. And is that a message being sent by a foreign adversary? Is it a message being sent by, if we go back to the earlier question, 2 questions ago, about what could actually be transpiring in terms of trying to discourage further investigation, is that a message? That's entirely possible.
All right, let's move on to another question. This one coming from Mike G. What if the drones are just the U.S. flexing a little, telling others they may want to rethink their current direction, showing off without showing off?
So I think what that question is really saying is sort of demonstrating to potential foreign adversaries like an Iran or Russia or China that we have the capability to use unmanned aerial systems or drones or something to infiltrate areas, or including highly sensitive areas like a Langley Air Force Base or something along those lines. From my perspective, I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense, because what are we really demonstrating? That we can infiltrate our own military assets? I mean, that's a rigged game. So I just don't think that makes much sense.
But they do it all the time out of places like Area 51.
Well, sure, they're testing their own capabilities, but the public isn't aware of what's going on at Area 51 and those things. And of course, the Chinese and the Russians and things have spy satellites, and they know all kinds of things about what's going on, but they're testing their own capabilities out of public sight. So, what do we actually prove by putting drones or something over, the state of New Jersey, for example, and then the government saying that we don't know, where they're coming from or where they're going or something? It doesn't actually prove anything, because if it's a government operation, then it's double dealing from the bottom of the deck. And I think that a foreign adversary would be smart enough and wise enough to realize that that's what's occurring.
We have Kevin Wright here from Solve Advocacy talking about the drones here in New Jersey. We're taking audience questions. Let's go to JW3 here. Welcome to our chat room for the first time. Flying car manufacturers? Maybe they're testing them.
Maybe. We can't rule out pretty much anything at this point, as we've discussed, over the course of this last hour, because we simply don't have enough information. Because the simple fact of the matter is that the Department of Defense, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI have not been very forthcoming with what they know about what's going on. In fact, they feign that they know nothing, but at the same time, they say that they already know that it's not foreign, it's not ours, and blah blah blah. But they also don't know what's going on. I guess it certainly can't take it off the table that Ford Motor Company is flying car drones over to see whether or not the United States government's going to shoot them down. I guess that's possible, but that doesn't seem likely to me, but I guess it's possible.
Well, if it's Ford Motor Company, they may actually be doing that, considering they lost $10.5 billion in the last quarter and a half on their EV program. So they're probably
that's an entirely different story, man. That has to do with EV charging stations and the infrastructure bill that was passed and all kinds of things. Sure.
Oh, I get
whether
that.
Whether or not Americans actually really want EV cars, and whether or not they have buyer's remorse when they buy them. So I think that probably has very little to do with what's actually occurring.
Me
but
too.
It's a good question.
Let's go to Luna. Do you think there are government programming agendas with this drone incident? Test public reaction, get people ready for planned event in case or in the future?
Well, I think we addressed this question a bit like 2 questions ago. Like I said, I think that it's probably more likely that if we're sort of testing, the public's reaction to these things with sort of misinformation going on across the airwaves of social media, that it's probably more likely that they're able to go back to, Congress and others that are interested in probing allegations of, government cover-ups and hidden crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs that have been hidden from congressional oversight, to get them to back off, to say, see, we told you the American public isn't ready for this sort of thing. The time isn't right. Go back to, working on your issues in your congressional districts that your people really care about, and forget about all this stuff. We'll handle it.
I often wonder about that too, just to see the public reaction on everything. I remember asking Lou Elizondo during the pandemic. I said, were you guys watching this closely to see how the public would react in a worldwide phenomena? And he actually surprisingly answered that yes, that they were watching, because there are very few issues that are going to affect everybody worldwide. UFOs and ETs would be one of them.
Right.
A big one.
Right.
And they were very, very concerned, according to Lou, about the public's reaction through that time just a few years ago. And I could understand this question, from an emotional standpoint, because we don't know what else they're going to try and pull. If you don't trust the government, you're going to say that they could pull anything that they want to pull in order to try and deflect what is truly going on or what they truly know. And if you have a negative public reaction, they may be able to say, well, we could get them and pull the wool over our eyes on this, or maybe we don't do that anymore because it scared too many people.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. And I would seriously not doubt that there were a lot of people looking to see what the reaction was amongst the populace to, not just the fact that there's a pandemic, but how do people react to lockdowns? How do people react to the fact that, they have to work from home? How do they react to the fact that they can't send their children to school? How do they react to the fact that they have to, receive a vaccination to go into, a government building, or, various restrictions that were put in place afterwards? So I'm sure that there was a lot of scrutiny that was going on, which is applicable to, the subject that we're talking about today, in the overall context of, UFOs, UAP, and, how would people react if, the government were to come out and reveal the fact that they have known, there is a non-human intelligence and there are UFOs. They have, in fact, recovered, crashes or intact, vehicles of some sort, and bodies or biologics, and that they have been working on reverse engineering for decades. So I'm sure there's probably lots of, analysis and insight and things that go into that. And it's like, I don't know if you watched Hal Puthoff's presentation at the Soul Symposium 2 years ago at Stanford, but he talked about how in 2004 he was invited to Washington, D.C. to essentially, he didn't call it a war game, but essentially it's a war game where they put a bunch of people into a room and said, hey, work out, all the positives and negatives of disclosure, and then come back to us and add up your negatives, add up your positives, and then come back with a recommendation on whether or not the United States government should disclose what it knows about UFOs and UAP, which is telling in and of itself. Regardless, even he and his working groups and things that strategized this war game came back to the conclusion that they should not. And of course, then therefore that the George W. Bush administration, if this story is true, did not disclose. So they are keenly aware of what the potential fallout and ramifications are of disclosure. So, if they wanted to have another test case scenario, having a bunch of drones flying around and seeing how people react to it would probably be a pretty good way of trying to gauge the public's perception of it and their reaction to it. And, it would be my position that they would use that as leverage against disclosure.
Let's go to Trebor. What are those anomalous sounds from Dave's feed? Sounds like someone stepping on bullfrogs. Oh, I don't know. I haven't heard anything, unless it's my fingers on the keyboard, as I'm saying hi to everybody in the chat room. See, this is why I read the questions cold. What's coming up next? Beverly is saying, I heard they cloak, and that's why they can't get one.
Well, I don't know the answer to that, but what I'll say is that it's very strange that, we've had numerous incidences like this in the historical record where we have not brought down a unidentified flying object. And I'm not saying they're UFOs, but they are unidentified flying objects. And so if you go back to December 2023, when we had, 17 days of these so-called drones swarming Langley Air Force Base, and apparently we couldn't do anything about it. We didn't know where they were coming from. We couldn't detect where they were going to. They came and went with impunity. Some stories allege that we did try to bring them down and we couldn't, using sort of the standard technologies that we have for counter drone measures. which is one of the things that, a bunch of members of Congress now are talking about, which is implementing new legislation that gives, the Department of Defense more authority to try to take down these drones and provide them more money to, invest in technologies that would allow them the ability to take down these drones. So are they able to cloak? It's entirely possible, because we're not able to tell exactly who they are, where they're going, any number of things. So that's entirely possible. And it's probably not just possible, it's probably plausible. So,
well, let's move on to another one here. Let's go to Hillbilly Herb. I feel like ET might be just showing us the latest threat to be used against us. It was Tic Tacs, flying discs, airships, dragons. ET showing us what to be afraid of?
that's entirely possible. And that's not an unreasonable question to ask. The only thing I would say is that, there's not a lot of evidence in the historical record of malevolence. And I'm not saying that, there's not a malevolent non-human intelligence that is interacting with us or something, but, outside of, some of the, the incidences of like Colaris, for example, and others, and some may say that some of the, the incidences of abductions or something are evidence of that, depending on, which side of the ledger you fall in terms of the experiencers and what they say, happened to them, whether or not you would determine that to be malevolent or not. I'm not sure that they're showing that they're a threat. If you think about some of the speculation about them demonstrating an ability to shut down or turn off, a nuclear weapon, for example, they might be showing us their capabilities, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're showing us that they're a threat per se. So, it's entirely possible, but I'm not sure.
All right, let's move on to a new question here. Let's go to Luna. You believe these UFOs could have possibly been holograms? Project Bluebeam, if our air defenses did not pick them up on radar, what certainty do we have that they were physical objects and not graphics?
Well, this gets into a very interesting sort of rabbit hole, I guess. What I would say is that there are definitely, for certain, I can't say definitively because I've never actually seen it and touched one or anything else, but there is an abundance of evidence to suggest that there is physical objects, because there have been crash retrievals. Now, what do those crash retrievals actually represent? It's hard to say. In terms of the hologram component of it, what I would say is that if you go back to what Dr. Jacques Vallée was reporting with the family that was traveling in a car, I think it was in the 1970s, and they all saw a UFO, and somebody leaned out the window and actually took a picture of it, but they all recollected something that looked different from all their different perspectives. But when they actually looked at the photo looked nothing like what they saw. So there's entirely a reality here that where whatever it is that we're dealing with, if we're talking about the UFO phenomenon, that they are able to sort of project something upon our minds to have us perceive something that doesn't necessarily actually exist as it is. So there's clearly real objects in some way, shape, or form, but are we seeing them and perceiving them as they actually are, I think is a legitimate question, if that makes sense.
Kevin, we have you for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. Still a ton of questions coming in from our audience as we are all trying to figure out and all keen on watching the situation with the UFO/UAP/drones being seen in New Jersey right now. We'll be right back. We have Kevin until the top of the hour. This is Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, buddy, we are clear.
All right, man. How do you think it's going?
Perfect.
Am I making sense to your audience?
Oh, yeah, man. You're doing great.
All right.
I'm having a lot of fun here. Thank you again for doing this, my man.
Of course, man. I'm happy to do it.
If I could get comfortable, that would be another great situation. But apparently that's not going to happen tonight. All right. Vanessa, how you doing? Let's see here. Never thought a grilled cheese sandwich could give me heartburn.
Gives me one every time.
You know you're getting old when a grilled cheese sandwich could give you heartburn.
All right, the
hell
question is, do you use butter on your bread or mayonnaise?
Butter.
Okay. I've had it both ways. It's interesting both ways, but either way, I always get heartburn too, man. Like about a hour later, I always get heartburn.
No, it's terrible. Dorina Yordanova, how are you? I think I'm going to go to the Solstice Tea Room in Ganachery tomorrow and get one of their turkey sandwiches. I think that's what I'm going to do. Now I'm craving one of those. All right. Great show. By the way, Kevin, just to give you a little piece of history here.
Sure.
You are now the all-time leader of live listeners on Spaced Out Radio.
Wow. Great.
You beat out Lou Elizondo and Grant Cameron, who were 1 and 2 respectively.
Wow.
You are now in the gold medal position.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Our new record is 535 people live.
Well, thank you to everyone that's tuning in, I guess.
Yeah, man.
Well, I think that has more to do with the interest of, the certain, circumstances that are happening with the drones, and has little to do with me, but appreciate everyone watching.
Doesn't matter. They're listening. You're now the record holder. That's what we care about.
Right.
All right. Go here. Egyptian Princess, thank you for that awesome super chat. Cheddar, mozzarella, basil, tomato in grilled cheese. Oh, that sounds good. That sounds really good.
That does sound good.
Bacon Jr., welcome to SOR chat. Are you crispy or a little bit of grease bacon? Let us know. Thanks, Belief Hole Podcast. Who's this now? Pam Harris stepping up to the table here. So thank you to Pam, Search and Destroy, Egyptian Princess, Mennonite Abe, Christine, and Search and Destroy for the great super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support. All grease. Good for you, Bacon Jr. Good for you. Bacon should be dripping with grease. Tim James, if you're listening in, meet me at my house after the show so we could go break into your wife's restaurant. I want one of them turkey sandwiches. Ginger Turtle, how you doing? Professor Hugh Axton, welcome to SOR chat. Hi, Jessica Lee. Long time, no time. Glad you're back. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We have them till the top of the hour from Solve Advocacy and the SCU. Kevin Wright is here. He is a media PR expert. He also loves looking into the whole UFO, UAP phenomena, and he's taking your questions. Are you ready for more there, Kev?
Absolutely.
All right. 265 Chevy is asking, what about weapons of mass destruction? They are looking for, but can't tell the public? Just a thought.
So that's something that we can't rule out. So, that was a rumor that has been percolating on social media, particularly on X. I've seen it myself. People saying that, that the government is looking for a potential weapon of mass destruction somewhere. And, Lou Elizondo was on, he has his own podcast now, and he put out a new episode this evening, and he addressed that circumstance or that plausible scenario himself, and he didn't rule it out. So who am I to say other than it's possible? So one of the things to keep in mind is that when the Pentagon did a press briefing yesterday, I forget the woman's name that did the briefing, but she was very particular to say that it's not U.S. military assets that are responsible for being the so-called drones. So that doesn't, as Elizondo said today in his podcast, that doesn't exclude other U.S. Assets, including the Department of Energy, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, others that could have drone-like assets that are doing something along those lines. I don't have any knowledge of that being the case, but that's something that we can't obviously take off the table because Lou Elizondo did not do that himself this evening. So who am I to say otherwise?
All right, let's go to Jules here. Do you think the alien invasion prophecy recently and now these nothing to see here drones are related? Long game shenanigans?
I wouldn't put anything of those sorts of things together because, rumored and allegations of an alien invasion, are time immemorial. There's zero evidence of that. I know that there are people of prominence who have talked about the possibility that, that there is some future event that's coming in 2020, 2026 2027, other years associated. As to what those things, could be, I have absolutely no idea. Is it related to any one particular thing? I don't know. But I'll tell you that in my opinion, it has these projections of a certain time frame and a certain event sort of time frame happening might have something to do, which is much more human nature involved, which is that, I think about a interview that Leslie Kean did with Kurt Jemangel on Theories of Everything, probably about a year-ish or so ago, in which he sort of asked her the same question about what have you heard about, a future event happening in the next couple of years. And, she demurred a bit, said, I kind of feel like, when I talk to my military sources and these sorts of things, that, that there's the potential that, in the next few years that life is going to become very, very difficult. And there's a lot of things that we take for granted now that we're not going to have in the future. And to me, that says something more to me about the fact that we know that we're already sort of in the midst of a global, World War III that we haven't officially declared yet with, what's going on between Russia and Ukraine, NATO, and these confluence events where we're, on the precipice of, a major conflict there. And then we obviously have what's going on in the Middle East between Israel and Iran and all their proxies between Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthi rebels in Yemen. Then we have, this continued standoff and buildup of tensions on the Korean Peninsula between North Korea and South Korea, and North Korea developing their own nuclear weapons and working on their own ICBM delivery mechanisms to strike anywhere in the United States. And we have China building a global superpower military, a blue water navy that can rival the United States, and a nuclear armament that can rival the United States and even Russia. And we see all of these things happening. We could see that the entire globalization that we've enjoyed over the last many decades here coming to an abrupt end. And if it comes to an abrupt end, we will not have a lot of the things that we take for granted, because all of our iPhones and things are made in China, and those things will all cease to exist. We have a number of, pharmaceutical components and compounds and things that are supplied by China. People would certainly not have, a number of their medications and things that we take for granted. So when I think about what these people are talking about in the future, they're projecting, what we predict to be happening, which is that we're on a pathway towards a global war, in which the likes we've never seen before. So I think that's much more likely than an alien invasion happening in any particular year or something like that. That might seem heavy, but I think that's much more probable.
All right, let's move on to another question for you. Let's go to, I'm trying to find people who haven't asked questions yet. Let's go to Slonomite. Maybe the drones are signals to the Russians?
Well, I think we sort of covered this a bit in some previous questions, but we'll answer it again because this person might not have been participating with us. I think it's improbable that we're testing our own technology over our own soil as a means to demonstrate to anybody else that we have a technology that would evade their own radar systems or infrared systems or something along those lines, because we can say that we're evading our own systems or things, but it doesn't actually prove anything. So I just think that's highly improbable.
All right, let's continue on here. Let's go to JR Two Wheels, first time in our chat room. Do they even know if it's today's technology?
Today's technology, as in, would the question be, could it be something from the future or the past? Or
well, I would assume that question goes along the whole idea of Lockheed Skunk Works, where they're allegedly 50 to 100 years ahead of what we're seeing right now.
Okay. So, well, certainly we don't know that if it's today's technology. And There are plenty of indications that they are advanced technology, at least some of them, because they are able to, at least in some instances, as has been reported, to avoid radar, to avoid infrared technologies, to avoid detection of radio communications, and any number of things. So if we are to believe what the Pentagon alleges, which is that we don't know where they come from or where they go to, then they are anomalous in the sense that they have a technology and an evasive capability that is beyond what we would conceive as modern technology that we're using today. That's what I would say.
Paramarv is asking, could we use a small localized EMP device to disable one and capture it?
Well, I would think so in theory, and I'm pretty certain that we do have anti-drone technologies that do use EMP or EMP-like systems. The question is, why haven't we done so? Or if we have done so, why have they not been successful? And go ahead, Dave.
I said I was just going to ask you that because to me, I'm surprised that if they didn't know what it was, that they haven't brought any down yet.
Well, that's a good question. Why not? And of course, the other question to that is, what if they have and they haven't been able to? Why not? But here's another thing that people don't think about very much, which is that what one of the dangers here that we're seeing, which is an actual threat, is if there are such technologies that are able to infiltrate our airspace undetected, undeterred, with impunity, what if one of those little drones did have an EMP-like weapon? What would that do if it was detonated over, electrical grid systems? That would be devastating. That would be catastrophic. So this is something we should take absolutely seriously in that regard.
That is something that Dr. Bob McGuire mentioned on the show last night, was that the big concern is if you take one down, what if these are adversarial? What if they have a biological, chemical, or nuclear component to them that we don't even know? Especially with some of the sizes of these drones that are being seen, it's very much a scary thought that if you bring one over a populated area, what kind of damage could it do if it were an adversarial drone?
Well, that's entirely reasonable concern to have, and I think that's one reason why potentially we have not taken down a drone, particularly if these are drones. I use drone, but I'm not convinced that they are drones, but at least in the conventional sense. But it certainly is a plausible reason why we would not take down a drone, particularly in a civilian area, because we don't know what the ramifications are of one crashing into a civilian population area. But at the same time, you would think that you would want to, especially over a military installation, figure out what the hell's going on and who's flying and controlling these things. You take one down and figure it out.
It just seems so logical.
The government works often illogically.
There's no way other to explain that. I think that's a perfect answer. Let's go to Contrary One. Dave, as I have heard before about testing in the desert unseen, perhaps this is phase 2 or 3 or higher of the test proving. What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, like we've talked before, certainly you can't take anything off the table, but I'm not sure exactly if it's ours. If it is a U.S. Government large umbrella asset and we're testing it, I'm not sure exactly what we're testing for. It wouldn't be clear to me what it is that we'd be testing, other than perhaps, U.S. public reaction to what they're observing and and things, and seeing if there's a negative reaction, if there's mass hysteria or something, which goes back to the whole notion of, can we show that Congress that there's a negative public reaction here, so please don't continue to pursue your investigations because the American public isn't ready. Otherwise, I'm not really certain why it is that they would, test these technologies over, New Jersey. I don't know.
The only thing that I could think of, if that were the case, that maybe, just maybe, they were testing out some new radar technology on the East Coast. Something that could detect drones. Because let's face it, Russia, Ukraine, they've proven that drone warfare works. And they may be wanting to test out to see how far a drone can get in before maybe the latest and greatest radar detectors can pick those up. That makes sense to me if we think logically.
Well, I think that makes more sense when we have something that was never meant to be made public, like the infiltration of Langley Air Force Base back in December of last year of 2023, where we have these incursions and we're theoretically testing something to see how our military, our naval assets, our Air Force assets and things react and respond and detect these sorts of things. That makes much more sense in terms of the sophistication of things, but testing it over New Jersey per se, makes much less sense, because if we have something that is of an advanced technology that's able to evade radar, infrared, stifle, and confuse radio communications in these things, then we're not really concerned about what the civilian, aspects of these things are able to do. We're talking about being able to be detected by military assets by Russia and China and North Korea and Iran and others. Like,
Right.
the civilian capabilities really don't matter at that point. So testing it over a civilian population in that regard, in my mind, doesn't really make sense.
All right, let's move on to another question. Let's go back to Anthony. Are the sightings part of a test or preparedness operations worldwide for some kind of an arrival? Is the government being forced to show their tech due to an imminent danger from foreign or UAP? A lot of these questions, Anthony, going to the end, they may overlap, but let's just get through.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it's my opinion that this isn't a test to a test geared towards gauging, public perception or capabilities in preparation for, any sort of alien invasion or alien arrival or something like that. I just don't think that's the case. I described earlier that we have very, very, very grave, serious events on the horizon that are far more probable and likely, between Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and other actors, and then, a World War III, which will dwarf any other war, including possibly a nuclear conflagration of some sort, that are far more concerning than, an alleged possible alien invasion or something along those lines. I just don't think that's the case at all.
I don't think so either, man. I really don't. All right, let's go to Luna. Do you get the anonymous insider's tips on UFO alien issues that genuinely affect your sleep and just keeps you up at night, questioning our human existence and what is really happening out there?
I do not get any sort of insider tips. I mean, I work with a lot of different people who have different sets of knowledge, but I sort of have a rule of not asking questions above sort of my pay grade, because I'm not going to put myself into some sort of jeopardy of having some sort of classified information that I'm not legally entitled to, because I have a family and things, and I'm not going to put myself and them in jeopardy. So I don't have any insider tips about things, but I do communicate with various people, and there have been meetings and in-depth discussions about various things. But I don't have any information that you couldn't also get on your own by reading and doing your homework.
I like this question by Ian. Where are the satellite pictures?
Well, that's a great question, Ian. It is a good question because, look, we have the capability of from the ground, observing a tennis ball in outer space. And from outer space, we have the ability to watch you not only stand and light up a cigarette on the ground, but read what brand of cigarette you're lighting up. At the same time, we can't detect where it is that some of these so-called drones are coming from or returning to. It defies reason. And what the government, the Department of Defense, and others are depending on is, the ignorance of the American people. And I'm not using the ignorance in a negative way to disparage people, but it is a form of ignorance because they just don't know. They don't have the knowledge base. They're not well versed. They're not thinking about these issues. They're thinking about how they're going to buy, their eggs, milk, and bread and put gas in the car to get their kids to school and get the job on time and make all their lives work, while also, being able to flip through their phone and doom scroll through, the social media and just have, a normal existence in life and things. So people aren't really paying attention. So it's easy to pull the wool over the people's eyes with all of this.
Just thinking of this as you were speaking. What is Doge maybe having to do with this? Because one of the targets that Elon Musk and Vivek are going to be doing is literally going into the Pentagon's budget over the next year and saying that's enough of the trillions that go missing annually. Do you think that maybe, just maybe?
Well, I think that I think the Doge thing is really interesting, and I don't want to delve too deep into some of these avenues because there's a lot of strong feelings about the Trump administration, Doge, and the merits of all of their intending to do and whatnot. But as it relates specifically to the Pentagon, I think the Doge is up against a wall because, there's, $2.5 trillion in assets that are missing every single year. It was announced, before 9/11 by Donald Rumsfeld, the Secretary of Defense, that there were $2.5 trillion missing. Not dollars per se. It's not like there's 2.3 million, or I'm sorry, $2.3 trillion just floating around that can't be accounted for. These are assets and things of contracts and hardware and equipment that have supposedly been purchased and things that are just not accounted for. This has been going on now for 23 years at least since, Donald Rumsfeld said that. Obviously went on before that. And what's happened is that there is, a couple different sort of black budgets that are going on here where, the United States government does have an actual official black budget where they hide the intelligence budget and things like that so that foreign adversaries don't know exactly how much we're spending on intelligence and these sorts of things. But there's also a black budget that's hidden from everybody, that's unaccounted for, and where they're spending money and diverting it. And this gets back to lots of different programs, through the decades of Iran-Contra and drug smuggling and all kinds of things going through the CIA. There's a current of money and a wash of things that there's constantly churning that will never be accounted for. So when it comes to Doge and the Department of Defense and these things, they're probably not going to accomplish much, but they could probably accomplish, tens of billions or hundreds of billions of dollars in savings in other departments where God knows where all that money is going for, So I just think that there's probably little headway that they're going to make when it comes to the Department of Defense, unless they're able to actually demolish, the so-called deep state and undermine all these programs that are going on.
Kevin from Solve Advocacy, thank you for your time on Spaced Out Radio. When we return, Swamp Dweller and the UFO Report. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, my man. Thank you very much.
Did I drone on there too long on that, or?
No, you were perfect. Timed it out perfectly.
Cool.
Thank
man.
you for timing it out.
Well, I appreciate it, man. And, you want to have me on in the future, just let me know.
Absolutely. Appreciate your time. Go get some sleep, man.
I'm going to, man, like right now. Thank you.
All right, Kevin from Solve Advocacy. I'll be right back, everybody. Hour 3 coming up next. Hi, Deborah Rooney. How are you? I apologize that I didn't get to all the questions. We'll try to be better, but sometimes that happens. All right, there's little Timmy James. How you doing, buddy?
Good. You?
Not bad.
Excellent.
Swampy is about 2 minutes 49 seconds.
Okie dokie.
Yeah. Not bad. We topped out at 5:35 tonight.
Well, I saw that when I was on the phone with somebody, and I was like, "Holy crap, that's awesome!"
Yeah. There's more UFO stuff coming up, people.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you know. All right. Good to have you here tonight, Timmy.
Yes, glad to be here, sir.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's Friday. Long day today.
All right. Big thank you to our super chatters tonight. Search and Destroy, Christine ×2, Mennonite Abe, Egyptian Princess, Pam Harris, Aussie Ange, and CS. Thank you for the love, guys. Very much appreciated. Don't forget you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check it on out. All right, here we go. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Habromania. Habromania is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp.
All right, 1 second here. We're just having a little snafu. Here we go.
My story begins in 2010. My parents were going through a divorce at the time, and my mother was having an affair. I woke up one night and turned on the television set as I couldn't sleep. I was bored and hungry, so I ate some cereal when my dad came downstairs and into the room with his hands over his face. Looking back on it now, his voice was quite shaky. My dad asked me to take our Pomeranian out for a walk. Excited, I rushed out the house and took our dog for a walk. My father never allowed me to do this in the past, and being a kid, it was a big event for me. My parents were the type to work a lot and provide for us. As such, I spent a lot of time at the babysitter's. My brother was at the babysitter's on this night, and I was alone with my mom and dad. My mom was inside the house, and I decided to head to the neighbors and chill under their tree. This was something my parents didn't like me doing, but when I did, they came over and spent time with me. Thinking this was a sure plan and wanting my parents' attention, I waited under the tree. They never came. I sat there for maybe 20 more minutes when I heard the sound of someone knocking on a door. It turns out it wasn't a door. By the time I realized it wasn't a door, I didn't think anything of it, as I was 6. Growing bored, I tried the door. It was locked. Maybe a side door, I thought. They were all locked too. I began feeling shaky at this point. What if my parents had forgotten about me? I started panicking and banging on our door. I didn't get an answer, so I went to the neighbors once again for help. I explained to them my situation, and they got very scared before calling the police. The neighbors sent me to their guest bedroom and wouldn't let me leave. The room I was in had nothing in it. Eventually, a police officer came in and asked me for a statement. I told him about the knocking I heard and explained how I tried to get inside. The officer shook his head, and soon after, a policewoman came and took me to McDonald's. I remember she was very beautiful. Soon after this, I was taken to my babysitter's house. About a year later, my grandma tried adopting us, but she died of a heart attack after losing the court case for custody. Another year went by, and my foster parents at the time became very abusive. They gave their biological daughter everything she wanted, and they were just cruel to me. I no longer live with them, thankfully. As far as the day in question of the story goes, it turns out after my dad sent me to walk the dog, he locked the place, went upstairs, shot my mom, and then committed suicide.
Oh, that's just a horrible story right there.
Jeez.
That's why we have Swamp Dweller here. Spookiness galore right there. Man. If you want more, just head on over to Swamp Dweller's channel, Swamp Dweller on YouTube. Thousands of great stories that'll creep you out each and every night.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
Little Timmy James is here for the UFO report. How you doing, buddy? Good to have you here.
Good.
Right on. Right on. So, more drones? Oh,
Well,
man.
yeah, I'm sure that there'll be more talk about them, but I managed to get in and find a UFO story. I mean, it still does mention, yeah, it does mention.
Oh, you mean after all the drones, UFOs still exist?
Exactly, but spoiler alert, there is drone mentioned in this. So, yeah, and it was like, okay, great, and perfect. Time for UFOs, right? So, the Federal Aviation, try that again. The Federal Aviation Authority has confirmed to Newsweek that a pilot reported unidentified lights while flying near Eugene, Oregon last Saturday. It comes after an audio recording surfaced of communication between 2 pilots and air traffic control, with the controller telling one to maneuver as necessary left and right to avoid the UFO out there. The pilots reported seeing unidentified red circular lights and objects moving erratically towards the ocean and returning at various altitudes, with one saying the objects moved in a corkscrew pattern and at extreme speeds. When asked to verify the recording by Newsweek, a spokesperson for the FAA said a pilot reported seeing unidentified lights while flying in Seattle Air Route Traffic Control Center airspace on Saturday, December 7th. The Federal Aviation Authority has confirmed that a pilot reported unidentified lights while flying near Bjorn Basket. In the 44-minute recording, which was posted to social media on Sunday, the United Airlines pilot flying over Willamette National Forest told air traffic control, "Looking straight west to Eugene, we're seeing 3 or 4 targets. They're at altitudes up and down. It's pretty crazy." United Airlines and Live ATC Net, the website which hosted the recording, declined to comment. Another pilot flying a medical evacuation plane over Siuslaw National Forest told the controller, just had another one show up at my 1 o'clock at about 1,000 feet high, zipping towards us and then back out towards the ocean. Red in color, moving at extreme speeds. I just don't know how to describe it. The controller replied, "Roger, you are clear to maneuver as necessary, left and right to avoid the UFO out there." And all the reports you're giving us are good information. Appreciate it. The pilot later continued, "It's weird. It's a red circular shape and it keeps zipping out towards the ocean and then coming back in at about 20 miles or closer to us, and then zips back out to the ocean and we can't see it." The FAA said it documents unidentified UAPs sightings whenever a pilot reports one to an air traffic control facility. If supporting information such as radar data corroborates the report, the FAA shares it with the UAP task force, which was established obviously in 2020. So, with the UFO reports in Oregon, followed mysterious drone sightings in New Jersey, and more recently in New York, that are currently under investigation by the FBI. During a Tuesday hearing on drone threats to Homeland Security, several members of Congress questioned how the FBI have so few answers more than a month after the drones were first reported, with some seen in the skies over sensitive military sites. The sessions raised more questions than answers with regards to the spate of sightings of unidentified drones and other objects over the U.S., whose origin and purpose remain unknown. The phenomenon has fueled rumors and speculation, including about crash sites, clocks changing time, and even extraterrestrial involvement. So, a little bit of a drone thing at the end there. But yeah, that was a pretty interesting story about over Oregon. So, and I think I listened, it was up on one of the social media sites. And yeah, I was listening to it, and then the pilot sounded a little freaked out about it. That's for sure.
The one thing that I trust about pilots
Mm-hmm.
is that they are trained observers. Whether you are a fighter pilot flying a $50-60 million jet aircraft,
Mm-hmm.
the military, or whether you are flying an Airbus or a Boeing 737, whatever it may be, you are always aware of what is in your airspace, especially commercial pilots who have the lives of their passengers riding on their shoulders. That's a stressful job, very stressful job. And that is why I actually take commercial pilots a little bit more serious here on their sightings, because they have a lot more stress on their plate, I believe. And if you're an ex-fighter pilot or a current fighter pilot listening in, no insult intended, but I believe when you are literally carrying any sort of souls on board, there is something that you have to be very, very cognizant of. And when they're seeing something that is strange, then it absolutely makes me wonder, what are they seeing? They're going to know a drone. They're going to know a balloon. They are going to know anything that's in the sky. Just your thoughts, Tim.
Yeah, I would obviously I agree with you, and I think that what is it that if you wanted to say, oh yeah, they're making it up, what is it that they're trying to gain? They've got nothing to gain on that. You're right. They're trained to observe, and they're reporting what they see, and you know. I mean, we've all looked at something and gone, "Oh my goodness," and then get closer and go, "Oh yeah, no, that's just a stump or whatever the heck it may be." But yeah, I find them very credible myself, and the stories I like hearing, and reading about from commercial pilots is, yeah, their goal isn't out there to they're transporting people from A to B. That's their job. And unlike a fighter pilot, whose job I'm sure is extremely stressful as well, they have a task out there. They're out there to patrol, I guess, at sometimes, and that's what their duty is. But a commercial pilot isn't. So when they see something, you go, okay, yeah, it, I don't know if it lends more credibility, but it makes me think that yeah, that there's no spoofing, right? They're telling what they saw, and they believe what they saw, and yeah, it's pretty honest.
Well, maybe it was aliens. Look, the
Yeah.
UFO sightings aren't going to be stopping just because this drone flap is going on.
No.
The drone flap has caught our attention.
Hmm.
Okay, that's the big thing. The drone flap has caught our attention. It doesn't mean that the UFO sightings stop.
No. No. Agreed.
You
Yeah.
know, so that's
No,
just the way I look at it.
and
That's
no, and that's you're right. It's we're all center focused on what's going on, understandably, but like other stuff that UFOs and all that other stuff, that's still happening, and it's not going to stop for the simple reason that they're still out there, and they're coming down here or whatever the case may be. I agree with you, man.
well, you know what? If the drone sightings start coming more on the West Coast,
Mm-hmm.
like if all of a sudden, say California or Nevada or Seattle is inundated with these, then we have to take a real look at what is going on. What is with this infestation
Yeah.
of what's going on? But I don't believe for a second these drone incursions are UFOs.
No.
Okay, I don't believe that at all. And I think we have to be a little bit more cognizant of that. Sure, there's some strange things happening right now. We don't have any answers. They're not giving us any answers. They won't even confirm what is going on. So I just find it interesting. That's for
Yep.
sure.
Most certainly. So, moving along here, I have something, and it's a Canadian story. So I always like,
Oh, no.
Canadian stories. So this comes from 1985, and it takes place in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So uh, about a young lady in her 20s. So a Manitoba ufologist, Chris Rotowski, wrote a remarkable study on the question of the alien, or on question of the alien abductions. One thing he explains is that alleged abduction scenarios are not all of the same stuff, and offers a number of first-hand case synopsis. One of them was told to him by a woman living in the suburban area of Toronto, and as in her early 20s. The woman told him that in the beginning of 1985, she lived on the ground floor of a 3-level building in a populated area just outside of Toronto, a few hundred meters from a hydro station. She said that one morning, 2 hours before sunrise, a craft of some sort landed in the back alley near her window. As apparently nobody saw it, she told Rotowski that drivers and other people there must have been put into some sort of a sleep mode. She said the occupants of the UFO took her out of the window and put her in a black limousine, 2 parking spaces long and making a whooshing sound. On board the craft, the aliens told her they were only examining her, but ended up operating on her and removing eggs, she states. She also stated that they operated on a kidney problem that she had had for quite some time, which her doctor had said that would needed to be taken care of immediately. The woman claimed that it left no scars as they were cutting between the cells. She claimed they put an implant in her kidney to ease the pain, and that a doctor had later seen it using ultrasounds, but it later flushed out through the urinary tract and was lost. The aliens showed her adult human bodies that were growing from fetuses floating in a liquid in tanks. She said the bodies grow in only 4 days to complete adulthood, but they had no spirit. She said she complained to the aliens about the process, but they responded that this was justified because humans do the same things with animals. During the first abduction, a female alien told her that humans treat others with disrespect and pollute their planets and spill or waste our seeds. She described the aliens as human in appearance, but then discovered that they were the typical grays with large bald heads, large wraparound eyes, and their human appearances had just been an illusion they projected into the mind by telepathy. She also stated that she did not use hypnosis to remember the abduction because of a traumatic experience of miscarriage because of the abduction, which had affected her. In later abductions, so she's had 3 or 4 within this short span. In later abductions, she had said she saw aliens removing sperm and ova from from other abducted people, and the alien human hybrids, as well as another abductee named Ellen Robertson, who claimed to her that she was a missing person from Rhode Island. She could not learn any more about her as she was taken to what the alien said was called a vivisection room, which frightened her and was, according to her, the reason she did not dare speak about her abductions for several weeks. Nevertheless, she eventually told the media about her experience and ended up becoming a part-time Christian minister in Ontario and a vegetarian because of what she saw in the aliens' craft. She told the media that she believes to have been chosen to tell her revelations to the world.
What's her name? We got to get her on this show.
Right? I will research that because I know I know of the person that wrote this, so I will get in touch and find out. Yeah, that would be interesting.
That would be a great story for what we do.
Yeah, definitely got some woo factor to it. That's for sure.
Oh, huge woo factor. But it just goes to show the power of the abduction,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
The abduction phenomena, we all talk about UFOs, UAP, and the propulsion systems, the anti-gravity. What are they made of? Where are they flying from? Blah, blah, blah. But the abduction phenomena, to me, is way more advanced than what we think it is.
Yes. Yes.
And a lot of what you said, I have heard from other experiencers as well.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if it would be enough to turn me vegan, but because we don't wish that upon anybody. Between soccer and veganism, we don't wish that upon anybody.
Vegan Nanaimo bars?
Oh, good Nanaimo bar.
Yeah, no, it was a very interesting, and I've been trying to obviously change it up a bit so we're not getting, repeating ourselves 1,000 times and changing the stories up. And I found, these abduction stories are coming out quite a lot in the last little while in places that I'm researching, and yeah, they are interesting. They're very, very interesting, and I think it's a change in flavor, and we're kind of getting back into the old school stuff. So very interesting.
Well, we got 2 minutes to go here before we have to say goodnight to you.
Yes, yes.
And move on to the break, then the Dave 101. But I mean, the way this lady changed and became a very, very religious person after this, that's not the first time that I've heard that,
No.
where it's affected them so much that it's made them change their entire way of life, their entire way of thinking. I know you're not an abductee. I am. It hasn't changed my way. It's made me more curious.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Things go, but I mean, I haven't heard somebody go that strong.
Mm-mm.
But why would this lady all of a sudden come out in public and feel that it was her turn to tell the story, and then maybe she has, I don't know, do any podcasts or radio shows or anything?
No, and I think that it, this is somewhat of a Reader's Digest version of what her story is. And yeah, there's a lot of questions I have to one of those exactly. But yeah, what really happened and how many times did this happen and where did they occur? And yeah, it's got me got me thinking.
I mean, to have that type of clarity
Mm-hmm.
on an abduction is rare, which
True.
could be, I'd like to hear her version to see, hear her emotion in her voice, the way she talks about it, in order to see how real this is.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I'll see what I can dig up. I'll see what I can find. See if we can get her on. That'd be very cool.
Oh yeah, we have to try.
All right, I'll be honest.
Totally have to try. By the way, tried out the new barber today. Trimmed up the beard nice and tight.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, That's the best $20 I've spent in a long time.
And the shave for $20?
I got the shave and the beard trim and the hot towel treatment for $20.
Nicely done.
Oh, I'm going to suggest that you maybe go for one yourself. Thank you, Tim James of the UFO Report. Dave 101 up next is the weird news of the week.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear.
Perfect.
Anybody
Right on,
know?
buddy.
Anybody know what the hell Paisley Parker was bitching me out about? Was it my shock over that story and I didn't know what to say? I wasn't expecting that from Swamp Dweller tonight. Because usually I'm just timing things out. You've seen me, Tim.
Yep.
I'm just timing things out for whatever. I don't usually listen to them until they come on the air.
Mhm.
So if she's flipping out over that, well,
Oops. Right on. All right, I'm going to say goodnight because I have to call our friend back.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know whose friend that you're talking to, but whatever.
Yep. Oh, that's all good. It's all good.
Whatever.
It's okay. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Later.
All right,
Hey,
everybody.
give me a call tomorrow.
Yeah, you bet. Everybody have a good weekend. Have a good night. Talk to you soon.
Lunico, I've never in my 10 years of doing this show had a call from the Men in Black, had the warning phone calls, been followed. I know my phone's been tapped. I know 2 people, maybe 3, who got the phone call warning after appearing on this show. But that's it. I have a really, really hard time believing a lot of that. I'm not saying they're not real, Men in Black, that is, but all I'm saying is I find it funny how many podcasters and YouTubers say that that's happening to them. Yes, Amy WC, hot towels. Hot towels. Dave, I have a question. How do you know you're abducted by aliens? My real question is, how do you know who abducted you? Why is the alien opposed to something else like humans? The first time it happened, I woke up on the table and saw the 3 little gray dudes. Second time, I saw 2 little gray dudes. Third time, I saw 5 taller gray dudes. I haven't seen any gray dude. Or there was another time. That was like a little miniature one with a doctor's coat on it. That was kind of weird. Mm-hmm. Paisley, I don't even know what you're talking about. Was it about that? Was it about the swamp dweller thing? I really don't. Hi, Space. They were alive. I'd never done a plethora t-shirt. Random person, how you doing? Good night, Jennifer Beveridge. Go dream of aliens abducting the 108ers. No, I have not, Sierra. Thank you tonight to CS, Christine ×2, Ozzy Ange, Pam Harris, Egyptian Princess, Mennonite Abe, and Search and Destroy for the lovely, lovely, awesome super chats. Greatly appreciate the love. Oh, and Deborah Rooney, too. Look at that. There's a Deborah Rooney chat right there. Appreciate that. And Hackmeister, thank you very much. Here comes the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We're always here for you each and every night because we love bringing the woo to you. Reminder, if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. It's that time of the day, that time of the night, that time of the week where I yell at everybody to get off my lawn. It's a Dave 101.
Open up the door, it's Dave! Who? Dave, D-A-V-E! What is this?
Dave's not here. It's a Dave 101.
I can see you're really upset about this. I honestly think you ought to sit down calmly, take a stress pill, and think things over.
Dave the Killer! Yeah! Dave the Killer!
It's a mess.
All right. Drones. Why don't we have any songs about the drones just yet? Look, the one thing we are learning very, very quickly, UAP are man-made objects and UFOs are still aliens. This drone hype, for as much as people are trying to distinguish what is going on, is cool. It's awesome. It's amazing. It's weird. It's strange. And frankly, the answers are a little boring. They are a little boring. How can we sit there and listen to a government say, I don't know. Fact is, we can't. It is ridiculous what is happening in the sky of New Jersey with these drones. And frankly, being a West Coaster, who knows what to believe anymore? Why? CGI, AI, people misconstruing a helicopter for an alien. I don't know what to believe. It's usually at this point where I like to tell our audience, take a step back. Don't get emotionally invested. And wait for some logic to come out of this. Now, I'm not saying this isn't UFO. But I'm saying there's a lot more that's not UFO than the UFOs themselves. Does New Jersey got aliens? Sure they do. Just not right now. at least what we're seeing, this could be a plethora of things that could be happening. Number one, this could be what I think it is, and it's my opinion only. I strongly believe that this is some sort of test by the U.S. government testing radar guidance systems on its own bases and sensitive areas. That's what I believe. Why do I believe that? Because number one, it makes sense. Number two, with drone warfare being highly advanced these days, as we see what's happening in Russia, Ukraine, it just makes sense. Do I believe this is an adversary? Not at all. I don't believe it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't believe it's the LA Lakers. I don't believe it's China. I don't believe it's Russia. I don't believe it's Iran or Ted Cruz's space pirates. I don't believe that at all. Why do I not believe that? Because if I'm an adversary, I am not turning the lights on my drone to say, hey, look at where I am. Look at where I'm landing. Look where I'm hovering. Look who's setting me up. No, it's none of that. It leads me to speculate one of two things. Okay, maybe three. 4. Let's go 4. Now that my mind all of a sudden kicks into third gear. Number 1, New Jersey's got aliens. Number 2, it's the government playing with their new toys, like Lockheed Martin just happening to put up a drone on their X account that just happens to be silent. A drone that none of us will be able to get. Number 3, there are drone companies out there, drone media companies who fly, hundreds, if not thousands of little drones at the same time. Could it be them testing things out for a new production? Sure, it could be. Or it could also be YouTubers, TikTokers, trying to make their way into clickbait Hall of Fame. There are a lot of options the government has to go through, but at no point do I believe that the United States government doesn't know where these are coming from. You're telling me that you or me could fly a drone if we knew how to fly drones. So maybe you do. I do not. It's something that I've got to learn. That you or me could fly a drone right into a military base and nothing happen? Well, let me tell you. I don't believe that. I don't believe it at all. I did have a point to this. And that point is we want it to be the aliens. We want it to be UFOs. We want it to be something that we believe in. But unfortunately, at this point, I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. We're going to have to wait. What should we be waiting for? Well, there's a few things. Number 1, if these are some sort of invasive drone species, now we have to come up with another acronym like the ULP, the unidentified lighting phenomenon. And number 2, those drones could get close to the drones that are flying in the sky to actually see what they are. Are you telling me that in this type of incursion that there's no satellites closely monitoring this? We know there's helicopters up in the sky. There's airplanes in the sky watching these things. Guess what? Drones have to come down. Eventually, their batteries will run out. Now, once again, I'm not saying all of these are drone interactions. Some of them could be UFOs. The size differentials is amazing, where some people are saying they're the size of a giant box or the size of a car, or one report of one of these things being the size of a city bus. If they are, that's amazing. We need to find out what those are. But with the amount of eyes, ears, and cameras that's going around New Jersey, there is no way that the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, the CIA, the U.S. Air Force, the U.S. Navy, the U.S. Army, the Marine Corps, even the Coast Guard that apparently got followed by a swarm of these things, doesn't know what they are. I'd be remiss to say that I want it to be aliens. I do. I'm an alien guy. I am pro-alien. In fact, I would love it to be that. I would love this to be Disclosure Day 2024, right before Christmas, right before Pope Francis opens up those 5 portals, whatever the hell he's doing over at the Vatican for Christmas, that could literally, bring Beelzebub out of the devil's den in order to get us. I'd love it to be aliens. I would. I don't think it is, though. When I look at the patterns of what's going on, when I see the 2 hearings for UFOs go on, then the presidential election, and during that presidential race, one candidate kept on mentioning, and the people around him kept on mentioning about UAP/UFOs. Then all of a sudden, the drone sightings start going crazy. And here we are today. And then Lockheed Martin puts that strange tweet out. Now, that tweet may not have anything to do with what's going on in New Jersey. Let's be realistic. But when you get a defense contractor as big and powerful as Lockheed, their PR department was either having a little bit of fun at New Jersey's expense, or they're laughing because it's probably theirs, or they know what it is. So, with all of that being said, how do we control what people are panicking about? Now, I've heard from listeners in New Jersey who literally say there is no way that this is causing panic. Their neighbors aren't talking about it. They're not talking about it at the gas station. They're not talking about it at the supermarket. So is it really a big case? It could be. It could very well be. Is it something that is bugging the people? Sure it is. I don't really know what's going on. And we're not getting any answers. Here's what I think is going to happen. Just my take on everything. I think it's going to come out that this was some sort of test, or it's going to come down where all of a sudden these things disappear as quickly as they appeared. That's an issue. That's an issue. So, is it aliens? I don't think so. Are the UFOs actually there? Sure. Are they maybe checking the situation out? Possibly. But what we are seeing is definitely human. Now, I do agree with Dr. Bob McGuire, a.k.a. Science Bob, because it has been asked, why haven't we shot any of these things down yet? His words, paraphrasing here, were, what if these were from a different country? What if these drones were carrying some sort of threat? A threat of biological weapons, chemical weapons, nuclear weaponry? What if? Could be. That might be the reason why they haven't shot any down. Because when they're happening over populated areas, just in case they are carrying something that is suspect, we don't want innocent people to be hurt. That makes sense. Makes total sense. I don't think aliens will be doing that, though. They're too busy taking us at night, having a big party up in space, and then blanking our minds with it. Maybe it's a good party. Maybe that's what we need through this whole drone aspect, is just a good party. But no, I don't think it's alien. I think it's human. And I believe the people at the Pentagon know exactly what it is. And that's your Dave 101.
As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News.
Loud noises!
I am good at things, fighting and reading the news.
It's time once again for Spaced Out Radio's Weird News of the Week.
All right, let's get to the strange news of the week here right off the bat. Firefighters and rescue teams conducted an unusual operation when a hiker ended up getting stuck waist deep in mud that was described essentially as quicksand. Oh, doesn't this take you back to Gilligan's Island? Yeah. The Somerville Fire Department was summoned to Somerville Lake and ended up calling for help from Wilderness Volunteer Fire Departments and the Fayette County Vertical Rescue Team when they discovered the terrain in the drain lake was too unstable to walk on. It is essentially quicksand, Volunteer Fire Department's Lieutenant Uriah Ludel said. You step on it and you start moving. It just sucks you in and you're just stuck. The rescue team used nearby Hughes Bridge to hoist the hiker to safety. The man was checked out at a local hospital, found to be uninjured. Oh, that's just a nightmare. I've had that nightmare literally since Gilligan's Island. They were always getting trapped in quicksand there. You ever notice that? I don't know why, but there's just something about that that just freaks me out. Freaks me right out. That's a weird one. A sheep rescued from a cliff in England attempted to run off afterwards with half of its body still stuck inside a rescue bag. The Beer Coast Guard rescue team said on social media that personnel responded alongside the Devon Fire and Rescue Service after a sheep fell from the top of a cliff near the scene of a recent landslide. Yeah. The Coast Guard provided support while firefighters used a rescue bag to hoist the sheep back to the top of the cliff, but the sheep had different intentions. It attempted to run to its mates before fully getting out of the rescue bag. A photo included in the post shows the sheep attempting to run with the back half of its body still inside. Yeah, this guy wasn't like the humans at all. Not at all. Job interviews are among the most daunting things in the world, and it's tough to mentally prepare for them. Get your answers in order and appear professional without messing things up. The annoying thing here is that you can never fully prepare for an interview when they try to catch you off guard with an off question, an odd question, and a weird question that could influence their decision on whether or not to give you a monthly paycheck. Apparently, this is a well-known move as several hiring managers have taken to social media to share their special tests that they carry out in interviews to test candidates' wits. On Reddit, managers of Reddit, do you have a special test for interviewees? The thread brought in a number of responses. One user, though, wrote that she had something that generated positive interest from HR, because, every company has to have an HR department now. Yep. So what was it? At some point during an interview, she said she would request that the interviewee please do her a favor and take a pen and paper and write out the alphabet. She says this taught her two very important things. One, if they knew the alphabet, which was actually relevant to a most basic function of the job, and surprisingly or not, an occasional problem. The user went on to say number two was whether or not they could follow instructions and perform a very simple, although seemingly stupid task as requested without asking me why. Apparently, the test was relevant because her company uses alphabetizing systems to work through tasks efficiently. This reminds me of Kiss, the band, where they would put on their contract that they would only allow red M&Ms or something along those lines. Why? Because that would mean that if any concert promoter or venue missed the red only M&Ms, that they probably hadn't read through the contract fully, and there could be other more important things that were missed. That's good psychology right there, actually. An incarcerated woman awaiting trial in Florida may not be the Virgin Mary, but she managed to get pregnant with some not-so-divine intervention. Daisy Link faces a second-degree murder case and a charge after her boyfriend was fatally shot in the leg, but has also revealed that the baby's father, a fellow inmate, is also charged with murder. It's a real twist, it is. Everybody says to me this is like some sort of Lifetime movie network. Some may call it a Hallmark moment. Lake had been locked up at Turner Guilford Night Correctional Center in West Miami-Dade for 2 years, but in June gave birth to a baby girl after the station broke the news in January that she was pregnant, and her family wanted to know how it happened. Lang said she never met the father of her child, Joan DePaz. Following DNA analysis, the results confirmed he was the dad. She explained that they had met through the jail's, when did they meet through? The jail's air vents. Air vents. How do you get pregnant through an air vent? I don't know. The saga is going to continue on this, so this is just so weird. So weird. As we say hello, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night, Mr. Bumblefoot. We need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Close that off. Close that off. Close that off. All right, download this. It was a good show. Good show tonight. I got to find out what happened here. All right, hold on. Where is that story? All right, here it is. All right. She goes, you would knock on it and you could hear the people from the different floors. You would stand on the toilet and actually be able to talk to them. Shortly thereafter, the pair began exchanging notes and pictures between floors. Being in isolation for so long, you begin to spend hours upon hours talking to this person, to the point where it is almost as if you're in the same room with them. Eventually, they formed a romantic relationship in prison. The 23-year-old father then told her his dream. I always really wanted to have a baby, DePaz said, and I'm not going to get to do that for a really long time. So if I had to choose somebody, it would be you. She was like, yeah, we could do that. Then they came up with a plan. He would wrap his semen in saran wrap and attach it into a line made out with bedding material she dropped through the vent 1 floor below. He would kind of roll it up almost like a cigarette. Then he would attach it to the line that we had in the vent, and I would pull it through. From there, I had placed it inside of, with yeast infection applicators. Oh, my. I had placed it inside of there, and then from there, I administered it. After a few tries, Link became pregnant. I can't believe it worked, she said. I think everything happened for a reason. DePaz says he is treated like a celebrity in jail. The baby is now 5 months old and living with DePaz's mother. Prison officials have moved him to another jail, but they still talk on the phone and see their daughter on video visits. She could be anything, the mother said. I think she's going to be something great. Well, hopefully she doesn't follow after mom and dad's footsteps. Oh, my God. Poor kid. Yeah. And apparently, according to corrections, the incident is still being probed by internal affairs investigations. So there's the end of the story. Yeah. Oh, for God's sakes, this silly computer being stupid again. Here we... It's doing the split screen thing again, where it's jumping from side to side. I don't like that. Bugs me. Tis bugging me. I gotta wait for it to jump back. There it goes. Thank you. I'm debating whether I'm hungry or not. I don't need anything to eat. What the hell is this? I don't want any of this. There we go. It says my Dropbox account is out of storage. Well, why the hell is all this in here? Delete these. Delete. How about that? Delete. Being very inconvenient right now. God, I hate Dropbox. Not upgrading. All right. Now, where am I? Let's go here. Let's go here. Let's get this shit going now. Go here, here. All right. Oh, yeah. Dropbox sucks compared to WeTransfer. WeTransfer is the way to go. Damian Wyatt, how are you? Zenzabil, how you doing? Oob to Joe's Maine, you're late. You're late, Joe. You're late. I have one radio station that uses Dropbox. I don't like it. Drives me crazy. Good levels tonight, actually. Nice. That makes life easy. Boom. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby came late again. And I'm not restarting the show. PJ Larson, welcome to SOR chat. Hi, Walter. Ozzy Ange, are you and hubby coming to Vegas May 1st to 4th or 5th? That would be cool. Ozzy Ange. It's Vegas. Vegas, Vegas, Vegas. I'll let you be my bodyguard. Keep me safe from the tens of fans that'll be there. Keep me safe from Merle. Thanks, Damien. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Spread the love. Let's get more people here. That was a hard chat room tonight. My fingers were actually tired. Xavier Romo from Mexico City. How are you? Welcome to SOR chat. Pissing me off, Evan Walters, for liking this show. Just pissing me off. Damian Wyatt, where are you from? Dark Mountain Ambiance. Thank you very much. Northeast Ohio. No, we'd love to be, though. We're actually doing a search right now for them to add more radio stations. Do you have any you recommend in your area? Because we'll go after them if you want, man. Get me the call signs and I'll check it on out. Dark Mountain. I love Pittsburgh. I do. My name is on the board on one of the Quaker Steak and Lubes there for Hot Wings Challenge. Okay, I'll check that out for you, Dark Mountain. Thank you for that. Oh, that's because they're iHeart. That's why. Let's check this out. What is your scare on? What are weekdays on our schedule? Yeah, the Power Mustached one is 12 to 5. What town is this in? Well, they're in Cleveland. I've actually been to Cleveland. I have. To the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. All right. I can barely see the chat room right now. My eyes are so dry. WUPN. Ninety-five point one. 95.1. Trying to find a website for them. Go this way. See if they have a website. Oh, their website's down. Last time they posted was July 23rd. July 9th. Are you sure they're still on the air? Oh, they switched over. 95.1 Bridge FM. Try that one. There we are. So they did switch. I do sports. Yeah, we're going to try these guys. See if we can get them. We'll try and get them. Oh, wow. I'm 3 minutes behind where I was yesterday. Excuse me. Joe, you are a brown recluse. Hi, Pancho Zorch. Well, you found us, Dark Mountain. We're here every night for you. 7 days a week. We'll take care of that fix. I'll be right back, everybody. Oh, maybe I should start these up first. Bear with me. Be right back. Like right now. I'm back. All right. Go. Oh, here's where I need to go. There we go. All right. I'm with you. I'm with you. Oh. All right. All right, that's done. That's done. That's done. On that note, everybody, tomorrow night on the show, Mike Ricksecker will be with us for another spooky night of radio. Love Mike Ricksecker. It'll be a lot of fun. Thank you tonight to Search and Destroy, Christine, Mennonite Abe, Egyptian Princess, Pam Harris, Ozzy Ange, Christine again, CS, Deborah Rooney, Hack, and Dark for the great super chats. Greatly appreciate the love and support, everybody. Let's have some fun tomorrow night. Take a night off drones, get more into the paranormal and supernatural with Mike Ricksecker. Good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.